All right. Hi, everyone. It's Nina Collins, and I'm here today at the Woolfer talking with Bari Tessler, who I'm really happy to have. Bari is the author of The Art of Money, and a year-long program that she's created called The Art of Money. Welcome, Bari. Hi.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I've been a fan and a participant of the Woolfer community for a few years. So it was,
Oh, I'm glad to know that. I'm not even sure I knew that, actually. I think I found you on Instagram. I'm not sure. But I was immediately drawn to your story because you trained as a somatic therapist. So I'll do a brief introduction. So Barry has been doing this for more than 15 years. She's guided thousands of individuals, couples, entrepreneurs about their relationship with money. She's a financial therapist and an entrepreneur, and she runs this year-long program, I believe still with your husband or your partner, because you talk in the book about your partner. I'd like to hear about that. Who knows? But really what interested me in what I read about your work was your whole approach, right? It feels very holistic. It feels very much about our values and how we think about money and our kind of psychological feelings about money, because that's really, I always think, what it's all about, right? It's usually not about money. It's about our feelings about money. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about this in my own life. And I spent some time in therapy dealing with my feelings about money, actually, about 10 years ago when my life situation changed. So I just really appreciate the approach. Like, I've dealt with financial consultants and I have an accountant who's one of my favorite people in my life. But you that often hear about people really getting to kind of the emotional crux of it.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. Should I just jump in or?
yeah, jump in, please.
Yeah, I mean, so I've been doing this work for almost 2 decades. And then a decade before is when I trained as a somatic therapist. And so I spent all my 20s training to be a therapist, thought my topics would be couples, intimacy, sexuality, body, food, grief, and death.
Mm-hmm.
And then my student loan came due at the age of 28. And that's when I realized, how am I going to pay this back? I have a master's degree and I'm making $11 an hour as a social worker, right? What is my relationship to money? Did we talk about money in graduate school when I was training to become a therapist? Did we talk about how to work with couples? If money on the surface is the number one reason people get divorced, and it's not money, it's that we don't know how to talk about money. We don't know how to work with our emotions around money, as you've already said. Did we talk about how to set up a business and do all the bookkeeping? So it was so completely left out of my graduate program as I was training to be a therapist that it was a wake-up call. It was shocking. It was a moment.
I have to say, reading your book made me realize I'm the mother of 4 children and I am very frank about money. But reading your book made me realize there was a lot that I didn't do in just talking to them about the psychology of money. And right now I have 2 children in graduate school who are training to become, one a therapist, one a teacher. They're not going to make a lot of money. They're not talking about it in their program. So even in my own family, where I feel like I'm very transparent and open and very frank about money, I don't think I've ever really had the conversations with my own children about how loaded it is.
Yeah. So I want to tell a story that happened last night in my family, but I want to just explain what financial therapy is for a second, because I'm asked this all the time and I never really articulate this well.
Okay.
So financial therapy for me is an integration of emotional literacy and financial literacy. So I want to just pause there for a
That's
second.
a really great answer. Can you give me an example of that?
Yeah. So I'll explain it a little bit more. So I work mostly with women, a lot of couples, queer, straight, women, men, and some men who are willing to do the emotional work come to me as well, right? And so financial therapy for me is helping folks really explore what are the set of emotions that come up around their money interactions, dynamics, patterns that happen daily for us. So money emotions are all the same emotions that come up everywhere else: shame, anger, anxiety, jealousy, fear, sadness, checking out, and then joy and excitement, and the other end of the spectrum, and then fight, flight, freeze, which is more extreme versions of all of that. We go there as well. So financial therapy is helping people explore what are money emotions, name them, learn how to sit with them, feel them, move them. that leads into what is your money story, going deeper into bringing awareness and understanding there. Doing a lot of work, which I call money healing. And it's not like you're healed and you're done. It's a lifelong journey of fine tuning. And then the next two phases, so it's money healing and then money practices and money maps. So I love teaching about the practical parts too, which not all financial therapists do. I love teaching people about money dates and bookkeeping systems and bringing your values into your bookkeeping, and then what people call a budget and money map and all that. So I do it in three phases: money healing, money practices, money maps. And I've been using this term since 2001. And then in 2010, a whole financial therapy association was created that I'm connected with, but not a part of, because I've been doing this work, and my husband came up with financial therapy. He's always been my namer.
Some
And
people are just good with names. I'm not great with names either.
I,
Financial.
yeah, it's a great name. He looked at my work and said, this is it. Yeah.
Well,
And
I love your point. Sorry to interrupt you, but I really want to go back. Your point that all the emotions we go through with everything show up in our relationship with money is a very simple point that I think really drives the need for this home. That we have envy, that we have insecurity, that we have anger, that we have sadness. All these things show up in money.
and yeah, we think
That's
that it's but we think like, okay, so happens in life everywhere else. It doesn't happen in money. And so all the tools that many of us are using in other areas of our life, let's bring them to our relationship to money as well. And it's everything from, there's ebbs and flows in life. Well, guess what? There are ebbs and flows in money as well. There's curveballs in life. There's going to be curveballs with money as well.
right.
And so many people, one of the chapters in my book is, it's not about the money, or it's about money, but not about the money. What is it? It's never just about the money. And you already said that. So it's about the money that most of us, 95%, did not receive a full, complete financial education growing up.
Yeah, I would imagine 98% of us didn't.
Right. Okay. 98%. Exactly. So there's that reality.
So then it actually makes sense to me when I think about the way you divide it up, kind of, as you said, money healing, money practices, money maps, that you have a year-long program. Because at first I was thinking for a sec, well, if I'm in therapy with like a regular, just a non-money therapist, we're covering all sorts of things at the same time, but you really have to kind of have a plan, right? You spend the beginning of your program talking about your emotions around money. And then by the end of your program, you're presumably really talking about kind of nuts and bolts. Can you describe it a little bit?
Sure. So, when I created this methodology almost 20 years ago, I just went on long walks in the woods, which I do, go on hikes and just say, what am I supposed to bring back? Like, what am I supposed to, I needed this work so bad, and everyone around me, no matter what background they came from, or income class, or lineage, heritage. So, step one is exploring your emotions and giving you somatic tools on how to name them and sit with them and feel them and move them, because we get so overwhelmed by them. We get stopped in our tracks. We feel so much shame. We feel like we're terrible about money. Everyone else learned about money, so I need to give folks, and it's my background. So when people say, oh, you trained as a somatic therapist, now you're doing financial therapy work, so you just left that behind. And I said, no, I bring all of that somatic training and those tools with me. So step one is
an example of a somatic tool.
Yeah. So the first one is body check-in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so many of us may even have a version of this. It's literally stopping it could be 30 seconds and just checking in with your body. What's happening on a physical level? How are you seated? Is your arm up? Is it down? Is it no? And just noticing. There's no right, wrong. There's just noticing. Physically, you're seated, legs crossed. Shoulders up, shoulders down. What's happening on a sensation level? Like, where's their movement, activity, butterflies, stillness in your body? Then
but in relation to money, like I can do that right now and tell you how I'm feeling, but we're talking about like.
So let me just finish this little thing. So I go from what's going on physically, what's going on sensationally, what's the emotion that's coming up, and then where's your breath? Like, is your breath up in your throat? Is it more in your chest? Is it down in your belly? And then I always finish a little body check-in with just, what's one little adjustment? Do I need to loosen my jaw? Do I need to, do a little shoulder shimmy?
Yeah.
Take a deeper breath. Okay. That's just what a body check-in is. And then I say, okay, start practicing this, start doing it in all these daily money interactions. When you're going to go online and look at your numbers, when you're going to go online and do some online shopping, when you're going to have a money conversation with your kids, when you're going to have a money conversation with your partner, your parents, when you're going to tell a client your fees, when there are so many daily money interactions that we have. So I just say this is a practice. It's not
Yeah.
like one and done. It's not like one and you figure it out, right? So do the body check-in before you're going to have the money conversation, just to prepare, like, all right, to calm yourself down, to notice what are the feelings, what are you nervous about, what are you excited about, what are you scared, right?
Mhm.
What are you feeling shame about, or whatever is coming up. And in the middle of the money conversation, you may have a whole other set of emotion sensations. And so maybe stop in the middle and do a little body check-in then. You don't even have to tell the other person you're doing it. You just do it internally. Or you may forget the before and in the middle and afterwards as a debriefing. I just did some online shopping really quick. And afterwards you're sitting with what just happened? What are the feelings here? Have I done this before? How can I do this different next time? Or were those good money decisions? So this is just a little somatic tool to help you to check in with your body. It starts bringing more awareness to what are the money emotions that are coming up. It starts bringing more awareness to what are your money patterns? What are your money beliefs? What's your money story? So
Mhm.
it's really the first tool that when people say, what's the first money thing? I say, do a body check-in and
Yeah.
bring in all these daily money interactions and just start learning. It doesn't mean day one, you're going to calm yourself down in the car dealership as you're about to buy a car. It doesn't mean you're gonna, it's a practice to notice, like, what's your cocktail of money emotions that comes up.
Great. What are your
Yeah,
patterns? What's regularly happening for you? Do you have people do reflective writing as a tool in this program?
you bet. So I'm really into journal prompts since day one. I've been creating questions and prompts and exercises. I used to teach my work live with 10 people. And then it grew to 20 people. And I did that over and over and over for years in San Francisco.
Wow.
And then it grew to 50 people. And now we've about 500 every year online. And that's now starting to grow because for this year, I finally said, I used to give a couples discount. And then I realized I need to open that up so that you could bring your mom, you
Mhm.
can bring your
I
daughter, you
noticed
can
that on
bring
your website. Yeah, it's a great idea. So do most of your clients come to you for this year-long program, or do you also see people kind of ad hoc?
No, so in the past I would open up slots, like 10 slots, and they would go quickly, which always surprised me. At the beginning, they didn't. It took me, months, but after all these years, those go fast, but I haven't done them in a while. And it was always women and some couples. But I've always preferred group work. And because we get to learn about ourselves. It's where we unshame. It's where we get to share what we feel our secrets or share all our stuff around money. I have a really beautiful, safe community,
Mhm.
and of course, safety is a interesting word around money, and we
Of
all need to
course.
find how much we want to share or not. Um,
So how many people are in a typical session, and is it on Zoom?
Yeah, so okay, so I want to say two things. One, it's people join my community. There's about 500 a year, and I've been teaching this work for so long that all the content's already created. It's broken down into money healing for months, money practices, money maps. And I do want to say we do money healing first, but it doesn't mean once you get to money practices, like once you're ready to start doing money dates and learn a bookkeeping system, it doesn't mean you're done.
Yeah.
Like you're
It's
never getting
earlier.
emotions again. But we do that first because once you get to the money dates, you have a tool to like not freak out when you're paying bills or to not ignore it. Or, the money healing gives you a lot of tools to prepare you to sit down with a new financial planner and not glaze over. And
Right.
so that, that's why we do that first. And then we get into the practical. And then they build on each other and you learn a whole foundation that you then practice, for the rest of your life. So it's all online. People come in. I do a monthly call so they have access to me. I do a little bit of coaching, like with about 10 people each call for about 10 minutes. And then we have this community that for the first time I have alumni running it. So I have 14 alumni from around the world and they have all done the program for many years They know the process, they know the journey, they know my teachings through and through, and they're not done with their money stuff. I'm not done. And so they're in there supporting the community this year, and I'm peeking in because I'm such a helicopter mom in my community, and I need my time and energy, or we're exploring if I can, yeah, I need to finish a second book that's happening. It's a journal. It's basically, it's prompts. It's an entire journal that's going to accompany the first book and the course. So just the whole course is journal prompts, exercises, guest teacher interviews with our, accountants, bookkeepers, financial planners, other somatic people, the monthly calls with me, the community, this huge library of hundreds of interviews and resources I've done for years. So
Wow, it really does sound fantastic. It sounds very needed. And to your point that I was going to just joke before, my therapist always describes therapy as, you're still going to have your issues. Hopefully we've shrunk them and you learn how to manage them better. So it's the same thing here. Like you spend the first 4 months really exploring your issues, it sounds like. And I love that you do a lot of reflective writing. And then of course you're still going to have them, but you have these tools to manage them better as you go on and as you apply it in real world situations. And you're talking about your business, super interesting to me because, of course, I relate to it in a lot of ways. It's that challenge of how do you grow a business how do you scale something like this? And it sounds like you're doing it in a really smart way.
yeah, but yes, and I love business model talk just like you. I love it. This is the fifth business model or sixth that I've had since I started in 2001. And it's just always fine tuning, right? Based on what phase of life, being in my 50s now, we're the same age. Everyone knows, right? Your age. So I just turned 52 last week. So just life phase that we're in. I'm always trying to, what's the equation of energy, time, money, family, health, and I've
Mhm.
added giving to that.
Okay, hold on, I have to write these down to process it. Energy, time, money, health,
Family.
family, and giving.
One is giving. There's something about giving and generosity that's coming up more and more for me because I'll give one example. So I had this business model. When my son, he's 12 now. So when he was just about to turn 4, so when he was 3, I was starting to pull teeth to get just 50 people into my online course that was 3 months. And I used to teach 6-week classes and weekend workshops, and I experimented with all of that. I can't even believe I teach my work in 6 weeks, and so that's why it needs at least a year, right? Also. So I was pulling teeth to get 50 people and it wasn't working anymore. It was like my business model's dying. It's dead. It's not, something's not working. I'm stuck. I'm pushing. It's not feeling right. I went back to the drawing board and realized I was ready for the year-long program. And I went from like a mid price point, a little higher than mid price point, and I lowered it, which, in the world, you're not supposed to lower your price point,
And
right?
it's really hard to figure these out. Do you charge $1,000? Do you charge $3,000? Sometimes it can feel incredibly random. It's really difficult.
Yeah, I have a whole set of questions of prompts on, what to ask when you're trying to find your pricing. I'm actually just about to send it out as a blog and podcast in the next few days. I held off today with everything that's going on. And it's everything from do a body check-in, what community do you want to be serving? Or can you have price points, a lower income, middle class, higher?
Yeah, we had to think about this a lot with the Woolfer community because we're now a subscription-based community,
Oh,
right? We settled on $35 a year, which we think is really cheap. There are a lot of female communities that are $600 a year. There's some like Chief that are $5,000 a year. Then of course there's Facebook, which is free. And we felt like we needed to charge sustainable, but we also really wanted to be kind of economically diverse and diverse in all ways. But it is a hard question, right? Because it's kind of random. Do you choose $15? Do you choose $60? How many people do you think you're going to get?
yep.
Yeah.
And it's something that you're experimenting and you're fine tuning with, and you're always adjusting. And so when I went from pulling teeth to, get 50 people in the door of more of a mid price to high price, lowered my price point, and I got 320 people the very first time I opened up the year-long version. And then that business model worked for 8 years. And it
Wow.
was growing a little each year. And then last year, right, pandemic happened, and I launched in January, February, and I got about 120 people less than the year before. So I
Hmm.
sat all going, wow, I'm in a cash flow dip.
Mhm.
Okay, something needs to shift with my business again, my business model. That's when I came up with, I'm going to open up the couples discount for anyone. So I
Mhm.
used to limit it to couples. So it was like, how can I be more generous? Because I didn't want to lower the price point again, but I wanted to open it up to more people.
Yeah.
And when that shift and a few other shifts, we got more people than last year. So, but it's always fine tuning. It's like, okay, I had a big dip. I did a big cash flow dip. I was really, and I'm pretty open about that. I don't say exact numbers, but I'm pretty open when I'm in a cash flow dip and what's working and what I adjusted. And so that's why I went with like, how can I be more generous with the community, get more support for the community, get more people in. And you never know, but that was what brought in more people and increased revenue as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I relate to so much of this. I mean, our community, also our model keeps changing, right? In the beginning, it wasn't, I didn't set out for it to be a business. I started it for my friends, really as a place to talk on Facebook. And it grew. And I spent a couple of years really trying to say, okay, I can't walk away from this. It's too interesting, but I can't really figure out how to turn it into a business. And I can still see in the last year since COVID, our model has changed. We're doing much more content. A year ago, we weren't doing interviews like this. And we started doing them because they were interesting to us and because we're all at home. And I realized we have access to so many fabulous women. We should be sharing it. So sorry, I feel like my braces are speaking. But the idea of kind of both being flexible and also I think really listening to yourself. I mean, it's interesting for me to hear your list of energy, time, money, health, family, and giving, because I spend a lot of time kind of sitting and really trying somatic, I'd say, to kind of figure out what I want out of it. Like what's my goal here? What's interesting to me? What feels right?
Yeah.
It's so important to do that kind of sitting and listening to yourself.
It's essential. I
Yeah.
mean, that's how everything was created for me. That's how my business was created, my methodology, that's how the business model for me, that's somatic. That's listening to the body, coming from that place, creating from that place. That's uh I can't think of the word, but it comes from my somatic training. It's a
Yeah.
deep listening. It has to feel right. We have to be in right relationship.
Yeah. No,
Um
I think for me, I would say it comes from my years of therapy. I agree. It comes from kind of that idea of knowing yourself and trusting yourself and wanting to live in integrity and like all those ideas of really trying to just be true, being authentic to yourself, which I think then translates to your audience and to all the relationships in your life. Now, I have a superficial question for you. On the cover of this adorable book, like you
yeah,
look here, your nails polish is green.
it was teal, by the way, and that was not planned. And everyone asked me, like,
Does everyone ask you that? Okay,
yeah,
you're right. It is teal. You have a green ring and green bracelets. It's very pretty. It's a great book. And I love the idea of you doing a book of just writing exercises. I'm a big believer in reflective writing. Um, it's just such an incredible tool to kind of know yourself and to heal. So I think that sounds like a great book.
yeah, it's coming out with Shambhala. I missed the deadline for next year, so spring 2022. And the manuscript is moments away from being done. It's really, yeah. So it took me, I brought in such a great team at the end to
That's a
help
big accomplishment. Shambhala is a really good publishing house. This one was published by Parallax, who I
me.
also know. But I used to work in publishing. I was an agent for many years, so I know that world.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you.
Yes, I thank you. Thank you.
That's really great. Um, I don't can't really think of any other particular questions. Is there anything you feel that I haven't covered?
Yeah, I can tell a story from last night in my
Okay.
household. Okay. We were up very late processing. So my son has his own room and he sleeps in his own room, but we still all not sleep in the same bed. My son's 12, but he has his own bed in our room when we want to just have you know, a debriefing at night, just talking late into the
So this
night.
is you and your husband,
He's my
partner?
husband of 20 years. A
Okay.
few weeks we're hitting 20 years. Yeah, I met him at 32, married at 35, had my first and only child right before my 40th. So, um, yeah, that's been my journey.
Okay.
And so, yes, and this is a story about how do you make a good money decision and how do you learn from it when it's not a good money decision, right? Because we all make mistakes. So the third phase of my work, the book, the year-long program is money maps, and it's all about, how do you make a good money decision? What are your numbers? What's your budget and all of that? Okay, so here's the personal story. So yesterday, my son, who's really into Fortnite,
Mhm.
wanted to buy a new skin. And you don't really need to know what that is. It just means that's like an avatar. It's like a superhero costume that they put on when they play, right? So he wanted to buy one that was expensive. Sometimes he'll buy one at $7. He has his money and he checks in, but well, sure, he gets to make those decisions. Yesterday, he wanted to buy a $40 one.
Yeah,
And
that's a
so
lot for
it was
12.
a lot. It was a lot for a 12-year-old. Now he did just get his first gig, his first job, training a 10-year-old how to do Fortnite.
I was
And
about to say, because my son's older, he's 20, but he's an
yeah,
excellent Fortnite player. And I keep telling him he should be tutoring. I think there's a market to tutor kids to do
there,
this.
there is. So my son got 15 an hour, which was more than I was making until I
That's
went.
a lot for a 12-year-old.
The grandparent is paying, right? So and my son's a little good, he's a trainer, he's a good teacher and trainer. It's good to see that skill set.
Yeah.
We're homeschooling him for the first time this year because virtual classroom did not work. My husband's teaching him tons of entrepreneurial skills. So he's just about to set up his consulting page for Fortnite training. Okay, so your son needs to do that. There's definitely a huge market for it.
Yep.
So yeah, so we opened up Noah's his first checking account finally because he's making his own money. It's only like an hour to a week at 15 an hour, but still. So yesterday he comes to us saying he wants to buy this pricey skin. We talk about it. He said, you told me that I get to make my own money decisions if it's my own money. We said yes, but when it's expensive like this, when it's pricey, it's good just to discuss it. He was a little worried that there might be a scam with the way that the other kids were selling these skins. He was coming to us with a lot of urgency. It needs to happen now. I
Right.
want this now. And I kept trying to calm him down and saying, can we give this 24 hours? Can we revisit this? And he just kept pushing and pushing. And so at 8:30 last night, one of his good friends said, I think this skin is solid, or this guy is solid who's selling it. And my son said to the kid, how about I pay you half? Then you'll send me the code and then I'll send you the rest, which was pretty smart and savvy, I think, right? And he sent the kid $22.50 because I think they negotiated for $45.
Mhm.
The kid blocked my son, blocked all his friends. It was a scam.
Oh, no.
Son came down defeated and then started, bashing himself. I made a mistake. I was stupid. And then so we just processed that throughout the night of like, we all make mistakes.
Totally.
He was feeling the feelings of shame around it, or I'm stupid around it. And then he said to us, yeah, right. Like you guys have ever made any mistakes.
Oh my
And
gosh.
then, my husband,
How many mistakes have we all made?
right, I'm in our 50s. My husband's younger than me. But then, so my husband got to share with our son, like, yeah, 10 years ago, he bought really expensive video equipment for a new business he was starting. He didn't need it. I knew he didn't need it. He learned later he could have bought used video equipment. He could have bought a quarter of what he got, it wasn't a good money decision, but sometimes we don't learn until after the fact, right?
And these things happen all the time.
All the time.
What a
Yeah.
great lesson. It's
Anyway, so and then I told him something I did, and then we just really he got to hear like, okay, let's put a few protocols in place for him. We really need 24 hours or 48 hours pause when we want to buy something that's somewhat more expensive. When we feel that urgency, I got to do it now. We have to calm ourselves down and just like give it some time to really think about it, you know. And then and then to help him with the emotions and then help him process. We all make mistakes. And if we can learn and milk it, and learn what worked and what didn't and do it different next time. So that was my whole little family.
great. It's a great story, a great learning opportunity. I wish all kids, I feel like now that my kids are older, sometimes they'll tell me stories. Like my son, I don't know if kids do this out in Boulder, but in New York, there's a whole world where teenage boys sell and trade sneakers.
Yeah.
And like the fancy sneakers. And my son used to do that in high school. And he recently told me about a time he got really scammed, but he didn't tell me at the time because I think he was embarrassed and, he felt like I wouldn't approve. So that's a wonderful story. I think there's lots to be learned, right? In all these money, in every exchange, and particularly with money.
Yes. And then I've been trying to talk with my son about money since he was 3, but I don't get it perfect. I don't always get it right. You know, I don't teach him everything. Like, so we've been doing this in small amounts, but my community is it used to be 25 to 75 years old. And now we're getting moms bringing their 18-year-olds or moms bringing their 20-year-old, son or daughters. And I think we're even getting older than 75. And so, most of us are learning this for the first time. And a lot of times the parents learning it for the first time and they're doing their own money work. And
Right.
then when they learn new things and they can then have different and new conversations with their adult kids, or they can go, hey, I'm learning this bookkeeping system. Do you want to learn it? Things like
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
And what do you think is the number one, like, what would you say is the most successful thing you've achieved with this work? What do people walk away from it feeling?
I have hundreds and hundreds of stories. It's my hardest question to answer. And I sat with my husband talking about it just a month ago over breakfast. And I wish he was here because um, he said it's like therapy. Everyone starts in a different place, everyone ends in a different place. Some people had so much shame coming in, and now they can take a full deep breath. They can talk about how they grew up in such a different way. They can have money conversations with people around them.
Mhm.
um, Other people can talk with their spouses without fighting.
Yeah.
Other people, I mean, I can go, there's every
It makes sense. It's
it's
actually kind of a silly question because it totally makes sense. If you think about the range of experience, part of the reason I thought of it is like in the Woolfer community, the number one thing I hear is that the community makes them feel more normal. It makes them feel like they're not crazy, right? And but with what you do, it really is therapy, and everyone comes at it from a different place. So of course, everyone's going to end up in a different place. I mean, your answer makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, they may get a new financial planner that was different than their family's financial planner and is more in alignment with their values and doing socially responsible investing or racial justice investing
Yeah,
with
we've talked about
Rachel. Okay, Rachel Robichaudi does, and other people. And so, there it can go on and on what they step into, but it's mostly it's therapy, but they're learning all these practical tools as well that we did not learn growing up. They're learning it in a meaningful way, in a creative way, in a more playful way, in a
that.
more safe way. And then they have the community supporting them going, one baby step at a time, and there's no behind. And all emotions are welcome here. And we've all had trauma. And
Right, of course. My
yeah.
last question is about the community itself. Do you have a Facebook group? Do you have a platform? Like, how do people get to know each other?
Yeah, for years, I used Facebook groups, and as of last year, we off. And I've been wanting to for so long. So as of 2020, we moved everything, my teaching platform and my private group community, to Kajabi. And my husband sets up all that stuff. So where we used to run the business together at different points, we separated as business partners so many years ago to save everything. So that the rest of our marriage thrived, and he wanted his own sandbox, but he sets up, he loves Kajabi, and
I
that's where
don't I don't know Kajabi. How do you spell it?
Kajabi, and it's the most user-friendly platform. Beautiful. My folks go there. We were on Infusionsoft Customer Hub for over a decade.
Hmm,
So happy to be done. And
nice.
so, yeah, and my private forum is there as well. So once you're in the teaching platform doing the work, then you just pop on over to the community. And it's different. It's not, last year was slower. People were more intentional. Like Facebook is, not,
Believe me, as someone who left Facebook, it's amazing to us the difference between
Mhm.
the vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So
Okay,
those,
I'm gonna check out Kajabi for sure because I don't know it. Because we left Facebook and then we returned this year. We now have something called the Woolfer Annex. If you're a member of our community, you can also join the Woolfer Annex, and it's been great for people who really just don't want to leave Facebook. But we joke. I mean, the way people behave, it's the same women, but the mood is very different in the two places.
interesting. Yeah, but doesn't surprise me. It's just intense and more impulsive
More
and
impulsive. It's so fast.
yeah.
It encourages a different kind of. The way I describe it is our platform is a more intentional experience. Facebook is much more reactive, and it can be great for certain things. Like if I want a million responses to a question, I'll post in our annex. If I
Exactly.
want thoughtful responses to a question, I'll post in our app.
Exactly. So for what you're doing, I could see having both. And for us completely leaving that and being in an intentional space that's
Oh,
private and
believe me, I can't wait for the day I'm not on Facebook at all. We really did it for a strategic reason. We knew our renewals were coming up, and we knew there were some members who were just happier on Facebook, and we didn't want to lose them. So it is good for now, but I think ultimately we will leave Facebook completely again.
and these are the things we're always deciding,
Yeah.
right? I'm doing Facebook ads for the first time in my
Yeah.
business, and it's working so well, and we're getting such dear people, and I never did marketing in that way, and so I've left it in some ways even though I'm on there
Yeah.
personally, and yet so it's a mixed bag, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of things that are good about it. I mean, or have been useful in any case. So I relate to that. Well, so much of what we've talked about, I feel like we're very in tune. I feel like maybe I should do your course. Although I think I'm too busy right now, but it sounds amazing. And I think people get a ton out of it. Like I really fully endorse, embrace what you're doing. I think it's really powerful.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah, really
thank
good
you.
to meet you.
And I love what you're doing. You know, when I hit perimenopause 4 years ago, I was like, "Oh my God," you know,
Oh,
and
we're on
then
the same schedule. That's when I hit it too, around 46.
I was ready to blow up everything, and I didn't, but I really wanted to, really bad, and yeah, so much when I found you, the community, and raging gracefully, and that's a whole other topic,
Yeah,
but
a whole other conversation. Well, next time when my mouth isn't hurting from my braces, we should just have a chat just to get to know each other better.
sounds good. Thank you. Thank you.
Really, really liked meeting you, and we'll talk next time.
Sounds good.
All right. Take care, Bari. Take care. Bye bye.